Coming up on Locked On NBA Daily, Kawhi Leonard rumors are back, and we've got to decide if there's actually fire behind the smoke. Meanwhile, is Detroit planning the NBA's next big move? And why the Ja Morant market may be drying up? Locked On NBA Daily starts now.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome back to Locked On NBA Daily. I'm Wes Goldberg. That's Haize and Tony East. Happy Friday, everybody. We've got a bunch of stuff to get to today, including what could be a crazy Pistons offseason and what happens if the Grizzlies can't find a trade for Ja Morant. But first, today's episode is brought to you by Odoo. Great organizations win because operations matter, and that's why you should get Odoo. Try it for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. Let's start today's show with this report from Jake Fisher, who writes that Kawhi Leonard, if he were traded from the Clippers, would be open to signing an extension with two teams that he's already played for, Toronto and San Antonio. Bobby Marks also said during the draft broadcast on ESPN that teams are monitoring the Kawhi situation and also identified Toronto and San Antonio as potential landing spots. So how seriously should we take these reports? Here's more from Locked On Spurs.
Don't fall for the Kawhi Leonard rumors. I don't get any sense that there is any interest of any kind in bringing Kawhi Leonard back to San Antonio. And I'm not even doing a whole hurt feelings type of thing. It has nothing to do with that. I want to start out here because this is where you have to look at what is smoke and what is fire. Kawhi Leonard is about to enter the final year of his contract with the Los Angeles Clippers, which means he is extension eligible. That timing the timing of the reporting, along with the timing of his contract and the entering the final year of said contract and the guaranteed money, this looks so much like a leverage play, and I can't imagine it is anything but. Look, we know that Kawhi Leonard and his camp are pretty adept at manufacturing leverage.
Hey, let's start with you here. What do you make of some of this Kawhi Leonard reporting his future with the Clippers, and are you sort of buying or selling the potential of him returning to one of the teams he's already played for?
I mean, it makes sense that he'd want to go to both those teams, as I think they both offer a chance to win, and there's a fit for him to a degree there. But I don't think he's leaving the Clippers. I think he's going to end up staying with the Clippers. It'll make too much sense for them to actually go ahead and start a rebuild. I think they're too stubborn to do so. If I was going to pick any team, I'd say Toronto. They seem desperate to make a big move this offseason. The Spurs seem like they're going to be a lot more patient than the Raptors, but I think he's just going to stay in LA.
There's a lot of follow the money to this, as Matt correctly pointed to. And, the Clippers just traded James Harden and Ivica Zubac, and now their core is young guys, Garland and Keaton Wagler. Maybe Ben Matherin's in a part of that. We'll see. Whereas, maybe they're not very good. If Kawhi is he going to get paid by them? Do they want to stay in the Kawhi business after the tree planting saga of last year that is somehow still unresolved as we're speaking about this? Who knows? And if they do want to move on or they're not willing to extend him, Kawhi would probably like to get paid, as every NBA player does. And so if he's identified two of his former teams, the Raptors, who are extremely capped out and have some bad contracts, they might be willing to move, or the Spurs, who give you a chance to play with maybe the greatest player ever one day. We'll see. They're willing to pay you. That does make sense for him. This just screams to me of a follow the money situation. And that's why I think any team you see that Kawhi is or isn't willing to go to seems like a team that has signaled a willingness to potentially extend him or not. And that's why he's doing this.
The flare up to San Antonio is kind of interesting. Hey, I'm still here. Please save me kind of thing. I'd love to come back. And I think the Spurs are probably just nah, we're good, dude. Did you see what we did? Toronto is interesting, right? That's a team that could and has done this before with Kawhi on a one-year deal. Could they get off of a Brandon Ingram contract? If you're the Clippers, could you procure RJ Barrett, who I think would be a nice piece for them, and it kind of maybe fits some more of their timeline. But to me, I look at all this stuff and I'm just to Matthew's point there on Locked On Spurs, this feels like a leverage play. This feels like Kawhi Leonard's camp trying to get it out that, hey, if you don't pay me what I want, I'm willing to go to some of these other teams I kind of feel like maybe there have been extension talks based on like reading between the lines here. There have been extension talks between the Clippers and Kawhi, but it hasn't been the extension that Kawhi wanted. We'd be willing to bring you back, in other words, but not at the max figure. We need to figure out how we're going to build for the future, maintain our flexibility. And Kawhi's like, nah, I want something closer to the max. That's what this feels like to me, Haize.
No, I agree with you there. That's definitely what it is. It's a leverage play. But I mean, I think the Clippers are smart not giving him the max. Like he can't stay healthy. Like we know what Kawhi is when he's healthy. When he's healthy, he's on. He's one of the better two-way players in the league. But I just think like what are we 7 years removed from the last time we could say that Kawhi Leonard was like really healthy consistently for a season? It's just not worth that pay.
Yeah. The other part of this too is that Jake Fisher also reporting that Kawhi would not be open to an extension in Detroit or Miami. And those two names, Tony, are really interesting because those are the two names that were in trade rumors potentially for Kawhi. Before Miami traded for Giannis, a lot of people thought their plan B would have been Kawhi Leonard. Detroit is out there. We'll talk about them more in the next segment, but out there potentially making a big move this offseason. They've been linked to Kawhi. What do you make of that part of this? Because now this feels like maybe there were those kinds of conversations happening behind the scenes.
Yeah, the Pistons are the one that really throws me off there because the Heat, I mean, maybe that was pretty honest, but like they can't pay him a lot of money. Like their situation is really defined now by what they've done with Giannis. And so again, follow the money. If you're Kawhi and you want to get paid, tough. Like that's not going to happen in South Beach. Seems like it could in Detroit, but if they're completely unwilling for whatever reason, as they, as we'll talk about, juggle 10,000 options of flexibility right now, who knows? You know, the Pistons do strike me as like maybe they're willing to do what the Raptors did last time and just be like, screw it. Let's just have you anyway. We think we can win the Eastern Conference. But, you know, I think anytime you're going to see a team that Kawhi is or isn't willing to going to, it's going to be money related. And to your point, you guys' point about potential talks that he's had with the Clippers, like if you're the Clippers, any sub-max extension Kawhi signs with you is a PR disaster because everyone's going to go, oh, they're still paying him under the table. Let's go. You know? So like it's a really hard and awkward negotiation, right? It has to be. The dynamics are just too weird.
Haize, what do you think?
No, that's a great. I didn't think about that part of it at all. Like I've been trying to focus on just basketball, but I mean, listen, the optics are the optics. At this point, no matter what Kawhi signs, I think there's going to be some level of degree that they're paying him more under the table.
Right.
So
it's like, hey, Kawhi, re-signed for $22 million a year. They're like, okay, yeah, right. Exactly. Haize, is there a team out there that you think makes sense for Kawhi Leonard?
Ooh, outside of I do think the Raptors do make sense fit wise. I'll say this: like, don't count out, especially because Suns ownership of them making some type of big move this offseason for a star that's kind of left, not going for, not getting to maybe their preferred destination.
If Detroit hadn't been in this report, I would have said them. Like they seem like the perfect fit of already good, have flexibility, and think they can get better. The fact that they're out means there's not as many teams that make sense. Orlando makes sense to me. Like they're trying to get better. They have the money to send out, but their needs are definitely more of a dynamic ball handler than a Kawhi Leonard type player. Atlanta kind of makes sense to me, and they were connected to Jaylen Brown and Giannis a small amount. So perhaps they're looking at that kind of thing. But that is the challenge of this is Kawhi is clearly very good, but to Haize's point earlier, he's been hurt so much that it's like hard to find the exact timeline team that would be willing to do this.
The Warriors?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Could we do a Jimmy Butler for Kawhi Leonard, just swap?
Would there be a creakier team?
It would be like just an exchanging of problems, right? Everything that we hear out of Golden State is that they're committed to Jimmy Butler and things like that. But if you could flip Jimmy into a guy who, one of the few players who is actually that is less healthy than Kawhi Leonard is Jimmy Butler right now. So if you could flip him into a healthier player at that spot, I think that makes some sense for Golden State.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
The Pistons quickly becoming one of the more interesting teams this offseason. Could they be in the mix to make the next big trade? We'll talk about that next. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. There are more live events than ever worth seeing right now. Games, concerts, comedy shows, festivals. The hard part usually isn't deciding what you want to attend. It's It's actually getting the tickets. Between long wait times, confusing checkout processes, and surprise fees, buying tickets can sometimes feel harder than it should. That's why so many fans are turning to Game Time. It's the app built to make buying tickets simple with upfront pricing, seat views before you buy, and exclusive savings opportunities that help you get to the events that you want without the usual hassle. My biggest pet peeve is when you think you found a great deal, you get all the way to checkout, and then suddenly, bam, the final price looks completely different than what you initially thought. Game Time takes the guesswork out. You can take the guesswork out of buying tickets to every type of event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Welcome back to Locked On NBA Daily, the best way to support the show. Subscribe on YouTube. We air Monday to Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, wherever you get your podcast. Let's talk about the Detroit Pistons. It's already shaping up to be an interesting offseason for the reigning Eastern Conference 1 seed. Here's more on what's going on in Detroit from Locked On Pistons.
Pistons are going to have multiple moves coming up, or a bigger move coming up, because they don't do this Isaiah Stewart deal unless there's something else planned coming up. Because they traded him basically to clear cap space. They traded him to move up, but it helped clear cap space. And now there's multiple avenues in which the Pistons can take, to where I now have no idea. I have no idea where they're going to go. I have no idea what they're going to do. I have no idea what pathway they're going to take. I have basically zero clue now which way they're going to go.
And just as we were recording this show, fellas, Shams Charania reporting that the Pistons are trading for Isaiah Joe for a pair of second-round picks. So they do address their shooting need here, and they're going to absorb him into some cap space. But guys, Tony, I find it hard to believe that this is the only thing that the Pistons are going to do. They obviously have the big Jalen Duren thing hanging there, and they've been mentioned for a few star players this summer. What do you think?
Isaiah Joe is the first windy fingers move of the offseason for me, because this team has been connected to everybody, right? We've heard Jaylen Brown for Duren like today, the Kawhi along the way. Are they going to get Tyler Hero in this thing? Norm Powell after the Heat trade? Like, all these good players that would make sense to them have been connected to the Pistons, and they're fascinating and dynamic because they can go the cap space route or stay over the cap because of Jalen Duren's situation. I did the windy thing because of something you said, Wes. They took him into cap space. They could retrade Isaiah Joe immediately tomorrow if they wanted to in another deal and use his salary instead of Aron Holland, including Aron Holland, whatever, if they want to do something huge for somebody awesome. So that they get a good player, obviously, but they just have so much mobility with their cap situation. They have lots of picks. They have interesting young players. They won 60 games last year, but still almost lost in the first round. They just have so many ways they could go that every move they make, I'm kind of scratching my chin going, where's Detroit headed next? It could be anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, the Isaiah Joe move is a nice move, but it can't be the move.
Correct.
And the only shooting that they have for a team that does need shooting. Of course, now the Jalen Duren and Jaylen Brown rumors and stuff pops up, but like, it's a solid move. I mean, I think it's really good return for a couple of second round picks. We've seen what Isaiah Joe can do. He's a guy that doesn't get in the way, doesn't need the ball a lot to be effective. I think he averaged like 11, 12 points and like 7 shots last year. So it's a solid move for them, but they still got a lot more that they need to do.
So both of your point, I agree with both of you. Isaiah Joe, though, he addresses the need for shooting, right? If they do indeed keep him here. And this is a team that had been mentioned for Tyler Hero, for Norman Powell. These guys are shooters. They're really good shooters, guys who have been all-stars in the past, but shooters at the end of the day. I actually think the Isaiah Joe acquisition sets the stage for a big acquisition, right? Like now you've got the shooter. Maybe you go big game hunting. Maybe it's Jaylen Brown. We've seen reports that they could engage in a Jalen Duren for Jaylen Brown sign and trade. Have we ever had two Jalen's traded for each other? There's so many Jalen's now. I do wonder if we can go that direction here. Haize, when you think about what this Pistons team needs, though, even with the acquisition of Isaiah Joe, look, this was the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference last year. I understand that the playoffs were disappointing for some of those guys on the team, but major shakeup, is that the right way to go right now?
I don't know if I wouldn't make a major shakeup as far as, like, don't get me wrong, if you can get Jaylen Brown, it's worth trading Jalen Duren for that. Now, if it gets to Jalen Duren and Ausar Thompson, you got to start asking yourself some questions. But I'd be looking more to be anything other than a Jaylen Brown. I'd just be looking to add to this core right now rather than make a big splash move, because you still have so much internal development that can be done on your team.
Yeah, the problem I think with their postseason that they've identified is especially when Duren was quite frankly outplayed by every center on his team. They had no one to score besides Cade. Like they were so reliant on like begging Dennis Jenkins or Karis LeVert or Tobias Harris, please have a good game so their offense can be good enough. And you can't, like, that is not even close to enough to have a deep playoff run consistently. Like, again, they almost made the conference final. So people forget, like, if Franz doesn't get hurt, they might have lost in like a quick first round series, like fast, right? And that's a shocking result, even if you did win 60 games and you're the first seed. So I think they know they need more talent, dynamic talent on offense that actually forces a defense to react and be scared. And to Wes's point about, yes, Isaiah Joe's an awesome shooter. They have Duncan Robinson too. He could also be a pivotal kind of guy in a trade because of his goofy salary situation where he could be traded for a big number or cut and they save a bunch of money, right? There's just so many ways to go, which I think is why they've been connected to everybody. But to me, what they need the most is somebody who can just go get it. Like they have the ball, they can score, they can force a defense to panic and react because they have a lot of fill-in kind of guys everywhere else. But those are hard guys to get, which is why they've been connected to all of them at some point, it feels like.
Let's go back to Jaylen Brown, because this seems like kind of a perfect fit for Detroit, a guy who doesn't take away what they want to be defensively, very physical, strong, like feels like a Detroit Pistons player in a lot of ways, like a classic Pistons guy. On the flip side, Haize, we've heard that Jaylen Brown, like maybe he wants his own team. Detroit wouldn't be Jaylen Brown's team. Detroit would be Cade Cunningham's team, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I mean, yes, it'd still be Cade Cunningham's team immediately. But if they come and they become a championship contender and Jaylen Brown as a two-way, like I can see it turning into Jaylen Brown's team. I can see Jaylen Brown becoming the 1A and Cade being the Robin to that perceptionally wise, depending on what they do next season. But I mean, I think if Jalen's willing to come there, you do. I mean, you have 3 years left. You don't have to worry about it. 3 years left on Jaylen Brown's contract. It would be different if like it was only a year or two left, or he could opt out or something like that. Like you get 3 years of it. I'd still be willing to do it one way or another.
Yeah, he's great, and he would fit the player I just kind of described. I mean, he was just an elite scorer for a Celtics team that's like built around not necessarily him, and he still found a way to elevate them to the second seed in the Eastern Conference. And of course, they had other very talented players on the team, but he can and has shown, even if it's not his team, which I think the reporting about the Bucks for him suggested that'd be something he wants. He has been a very good Robin to Tatum for all these years and was the best player very often in their championship run. So I think he'd fit great next to Cade for a lot of those reasons. And importantly for the Pistons, he's not a bad defender at all. He's like pretty good sometimes on that end of the floor, and they're awesome on that end. So he would fit very well, but it would take a lot to get him, whether that's Jalen Duren, who made All-NBA, like his playoff stunk, but was awesome last year, or a ton of picks and young players to the point that like that's your team going forward. Both routes I understand, but it's worth asking, as we did with his contract yesterday, is this the perfect guy? Because that's your final guy.
Yeah, maybe there's a smaller move that they could make that wouldn't cost so much. Is it like a Zach LaVine type, who I actually kind of like?
Don't
for
do that.
Team?
Don't do
no?
that. I'll tell you this
Haize
right
knows
now.
better than we do.
The last thing you want on a team if you're trying to make the step forward in the playoffs is Zach LaVine being on your team. I can tell you that right now.
Well, Matt's not on the show, but I would be remiss not to bring up DeMar DeRozan's name here also.
Same kind of issues, I feel like.
Kind of concerns,
Same kind of issues, but he does fit the mold of a go and get a bucket guy that they do need. And I do think that we've seen with the right, like we've seen when he was with the Spurs, he will play a more complementary role in the right team. So I'd be more willing to do that than Zach LaVine for the Detroit Pistons.
Tony, what do you think? Is there a name I'm missing here?
Well, I like the LaVine shout just because it fits kind of the idea of there are players that they could add without trading a lot of stuff, right? Which is the kind of the balance they have to strike. Like, let's pretend Jaylen Brown is available. We don't really know that to them. They'd have to trade lots of stuff for him versus, sure, he's a much worse player, but there are cap space routes to just get Norm Powell on your team. Like Norm Powell is a dynamite scorer who would help them in some ways. He has his issues. Certainly that'd be a reason he's available. But like, if you can just do that, is that better? Because you still have all your stuff. You can figure out how that works, right? There's just so many paths available to them, which is why I think the not free, but much, much cheaper dynamic guy is a route that I think they should be more heavily exploring. That's why I thought Tyler Hero was like the perfect kind of compromise when that was the rumor.
Could still be available, right? So we'll see what happens with that. It does feel like the Pistons are setting up themselves for, at the very least, a flexible offseason where they may have some decisions to make that could make their team better. Meanwhile, the Memphis Grizzlies are open for business on Ja Morant. Everybody knows that. But what if they don't have any customers? We'll talk about that next. Today's episode is brought to you by Odoo. Running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them talk to each other. That's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales and accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works in one place, helping your team move faster, stay organized, and focus on growing the business instead of managing software. The best organizations know that success isn't just about talent, it's about having everyone working toward the same goal, and that's true in sports, just like it is in business. Back when I worked in a sales office, the thing that brought us down was a lack of communication, not getting on the same page. Our biggest problem came when inventory, sales, and customers were all going in different directions. Just like in sports, organizations are successful when everyone's aligned. Great organizations win because operations matter, and that's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. Today's episode is also brought to you by Quo. Missed calls and slow follow-ups can cost businesses more than they realize. Every unanswered call, forgotten text, or delayed response could mean a missed opportunity and a lost customer, or revenue left on the table. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled Quo. It's the business communication system built so you never miss a call. Quo brings your team's calls, texts, and customer conversations together all in one place, helping businesses stay organized, responsive, and connected. Quo simplifies communication for an entire team. Instead of juggling multiple phones, inboxes, and message threads, everyone stays on the same page and focuses on serving customers. As a customer, there's nothing worse than reaching out and feeling like your message disappeared into a void. Businesses that respond quickly stand out, and Quo helps make that possible by keeping every conversation visible and organized. Money's on the line. Always say hello with Quo. Try Quo for free, plus get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/lockedonnba. That's Quo, QUO.com/lockedonnba. Thanks for making Locked On NBA Daily part of your daily routine and making the Locked On Podcast Network your first listen every day. Stay tuned throughout the offseason as we cover the biggest stories. According to multiple insider reports, Ja Morant, very available, but the Grizzlies are also struggling to find a suitor. Ja Morant is under contract for this coming season and the next one, making more than $40 million in each of those seasons. But so you have the financial component of this that complicates things. And then there's obviously the availability issues that have plagued Morant over the last few years. Haize, we talked about some potential landing spots on yesterday's episode for Ja Morant that were all sort of veering in these teams are just crazy enough to do it range, right?
Yeah.
What happens if the Grizzlies just can't find a taker for Ja Morant?
Will they John Wall Ja Morant? Is that a potential here? Will they just tell him just don't show up? Like, it seems like they are really done, and they do not want Ja Morant to affect this rebuild and this new fresh start that they're trying to go to. So I know that sounds like the nuclear option, but if they really are convicted in that may be the route that they go if they don't want him still on this team and they don't find a taker for him.
I thought the same thing, which is crazy to say, but if you're heading into a rebuild and they drafted Richie Saunders, he's obviously hurt and won't be playing right away, but they have other young guards, Ty Jerome's on their team, that they would like Scottie Pippen's on their team. They would like to give minutes to these guys. They would like them to have the ball. Don't get me wrong. It's good to have a point guard who can get other guys involved, but is it actually helpful for the long-term future of your team if that's the case? The problem is, I do wonder if Ja Morant qualifies for the player participation policy and they're going to get fined out the wazoo if he's not around the team, which would be a big hurdle. I'd have to look that up immediately. I should have done so before, but I do think it would be in their best interest to not potentially have him playing that often, which is crazy to say, which is why I think, as Brian Windhorst said, he's flagrantly available and they would literally just take anything for him if possible.
That's such an elite wording for that too. Like, I saw that, I was like, that's just such a great way to word that.
Yeah, shout out to Windhorst. This feels like something that could be done later this summer, right? When you have some team sort of empty-handed after all the moves, just being like, well, we didn't get Giannis, we didn't get Jaylen Brown, we didn't get Kawhi, we didn't get any of these big names that could or may be moving. Should we just kind of take a flyer on Ja Morant? That kind of feels like where maybe this is going, but that's going to be, 2 or 3 months of speculation, Tony.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he played 79 games in the last 3 years. Like, no one wants to do that. It's really tricky to dive into that with any sort of commitment. But you're right that if your options become, oh crap, we did nothing, or at least we're trying something with Ja Morant, I can understand that more than committing to him early which is why I do agree that he'd be like the last big thing that happens and definitely not the first. Already big things have happened, but that's what's so tricky about it for the Grizzlies because they'll want to know sooner, right? So they can get on with their business in life and know what their team and situation is.
Haize, is any of this on Memphis at all? I mean, Ja Morant has his concerns. Was there a Grizzlies misstep here at any point in the handling of Ja Morant that maybe they could have gotten to this? They could have avoided getting to this point.
Yeah, trade him earlier. They like literally traded him earlier. That's really the only thing. Like, and that's even difficult. Like in being honest, like that's been difficult. Like he had the suspension, then the injury, and then like just a bunch of stuff going on. So that would have been really hard to avoid that, getting to that. But other than that, no, I don't think Memphis really. There's nothing that they could have did to make Ja Morant's value better.
Tony,
it's a tricky spot because they were, I think, the year the Warriors won the championship, the second best team in the league, and they lost to Golden State in the second round. And so clearly, if you're at that level, you're like, yeah, we got to try it with this core. But then you nailed the chronology of like, first it's a suspension, and you think, oh, great, he's not hurt. Like when he comes back, maybe they'll be good again. And then they weren't. And then they had to pay everybody, so their depth starts to chip away. And then they start to trade guys. Like you understand at every step of the way why they weren't, but then they get to this point, it's like, yeah, you probably should have traded him a little sooner if you ever thought this was possible.
Even at the trade deadline, where they were reportedly taking calls on Ja Morant, but I guess they weren't thrilled with any of the offers that they got. But it feels like maybe whatever offers they may or may not have gotten in February might end up being better what they had now. I mean, in the reporting of it, it sounds like they might actually have to give up stuff to get off of Ja Morant, which it would be obviously not ideal.
If they knew at the trade deadline that they would get the third overall pick, I bet they would have lowered the price. I think because that's a huge change to your direction
Absolutely.
and organizational structure.
That's a great point, Tony.
It is sure to be a crazy weekend of NBA news as we approach the offseason. So let's end the show with some wrong predictions of things that we'll be talking about on Monday. That's wrong predictions. So you guys are going to make these predictions knowing they will probably be wrong. I'm gonna kick us off here. Here's my crazy wrong prediction. I think we get another trade, and I think the Timberwolves are not done yet. And the Timberwolves are going to agree to trade Rudy Gobert to Portland for Donovan Clingan and Jeremy Grant. That is my wrong prediction. I think Portland is interested in upgrading the center spot from all the kind of loose reporting happening around the Trailblazers right now. Not sure why, because I think Donovan Clingan's pretty good. But I think they go get a big-name center like Gobert. And Minnesota, maybe they're doing a lot of moves, but also kind of secretly resetting the timeline around Anthony Edwards. They got younger with the LaMelo Ball stuff, getting off of Julius Randle, everything like that. Get rid of your last vet, trade away Gobert, get a young guy in Clingan, and then you get Grant to help fill in one of those forward spots that's vacant now after making some of these moves. It's just crazy enough that I could talk myself into it being a good idea for both teams, but it's probably a bad idea for both teams, which is why it's a wrong prediction. Tony, what do you think?
It's glorious. I hate it for everyone, which is why it's glorious.
Right, exactly. Give me your wrong prediction.
Paolo Banchero for Trey Murphy with associated contracts mixed in. Two sad teams that need to change something. The Magic are way too expensive to be flailing around as the 8 seed. The Pelicans are, what are they even doing? Great, now you have Paolo Banchero. That's fun. Trey Murphy's a good shooter. That would help the Magic a great deal. I don't know what the other contracts would be, but everybody's a little less sad.
Paolo Banchero and Zion Williamson like battling to not dunk the ball would be a lot of fun.
You and I would add spacing to that team, Wes.
Hey, I'm streaky. Haize, what's your wrong prediction?
The Pelicans trade Zion Williamson to the Portland Trailblazers.
Oh,
So you just merged our two. There you go.
There you go. There you go.
We can connect all these, a big 4-team trade, and have a really fun time.
Can I make a case for some team trading for Zion?
Yes.
He was quietly very good last year and very available. December on did not miss a game that the Pelicans cared about.
With all that is that's very sensible. The Pelicans are not a sensible organization.
Do you think that like if you were a team that came calling New Orleans though, and we're like, we'll give you ABC for Zion, you think they hang up the phone because they're that committed to Zion still?
It's kind of tricky because they have lots of like should be good players, but their team is bad. So like
I say that all the time, Tony. I say that they have so many players that you look at and you're like, Herb Jones is good. Trey is good. Zion's good when he's actually on the court. Like, why is this team so terrible all the time?
We all like their set. We like Easy. We like some of these guys. We like Derek Queen.
Like if you're trading Zion, it's like, don't you want players because your team seems like it should be good, but your team's not good. So it's like I don't even know what it looks like.
The Pelicans are the worst team with the fewest team needs. Like I look at like what that team needs to improve, and I'm just like, I don't really know. I kind of like all these guys. What's
Vibes.
Right.
They need vibes. I guess.
Jamal Mosley, perfect. He'll save the day with vibes.
Yeah, Jamal Mosley, known for his vibes for sure. If you like what you heard today, subscribe to Locked On NBA Daily wherever you get your podcasts, including on YouTube. Thanks to Haize and Tony for their expertise every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network your first listen. We'll see you back here next week for more Locked On NBA Daily.